Plato's Republic, one of the most famous philosophical works ever written, paints a vision of an ideal society ruled by philosopher kings, governed by justice and structured to ensure harmony. But in today's world, can a real country match this vision? Some argue that modern Singapore comes close. But before we talk about Plato's Utopia, let's first understand why he thought other political systems were flawed. Plato and his fellow philosophers observed the rise and fall of various political systems, concluding that societies tend to cycle between different forms of rule, none of which could sustain true justice. First, democracy, ruled by the military elite, where honor is valued above all. But over time, ambition for wealth corrupts this system. Next, oligarchy, a small, wealthy ruling class emerges, governing based on financial power. Inequality grows, leading to resentment among the poor. Then, democracy. In reaction to oligarchy, the masses demand freedom and equality, but excessive freedom leads to chaos, where unqualified leaders gain power through popularity rather than wisdom. Finally, tyranny. When democracy collapses into disorder, a strongman emerges, promising stability. However, tyranny is the worst form of rule. One person wields absolute power, governing through fear. Plato saw this as an endless cycle. Each system inevitably decayed into the next. The only way to break free, a society led by philosopher kings, wise rulers who govern not for personal gain, but for the good of all. This leads us to Callipolis, Plato's ideal city built on three classes. The rulers, philosopher kings, wise leaders who govern based on reason. The guardians, auxiliaries, the military and civil servants who enforce order. The producers, merchants, craftsmen and workers who drive the economy. In Singapore, governance is heavily meritocratic. The government is led by highly educated elites, many of whom are scholars selected through rigorous academic and leadership programs, arguably a modern version of philosopher kings. Policies are data-driven, pragmatic and long-term, echoing Plato's belief that rulers should govern based on knowledge rather than personal gain. Singapore's public service and military are structured similarly to Plato's guardians. The government ensures strict law enforcement, social stability and national security with a strong emphasis on discipline and duty. National service, for example, reinforces this ideal, training every male citizen to defend the state. And then we have the producers. Singapore's economy thrives on free enterprise, trade and innovation. While Plato saw producers as the lowest class, Singapore takes a different approach, supporting entrepreneurship and ensuring upward mobility through education and skills training. But here's where things get interesting. Singapore's economy depends heavily on foreign labor. Foreign professionals drive finance and tech industries, while migrant workers form the backbone of construction, domestic work and essential services. In Plato's ideal city, each person has a defined role based on their natural ability. In Singapore, some argue that the foreign workforce plays a similar role, filling gaps that locals do not or will not take on. But while Plato saw all citizens as part of a single structured society, Singapore maintains clear distinctions between citizens, permanent residents, and migrant workers. Unlike citizens, many foreign workers have fewer rights and limited pathways to permanent residency. Their presence is crucial to the economy, yet their long-term place in Singapore remains uncertain. This raises the question, does Plato's vision of justice, where everyone contributes according to their ability, apply equally to all or only to a select group? Plato defined justice as everyone performing the role they are best suited for. Singapore's meritocratic system, where individuals rise based on talent rather than birth, aligns with this idea. From scholarships to public housing policies, the nation aims to balance opportunity with stability. But the question remains, how does justice apply to those outside the citizenry? However, Plato's Utopia also demanded strict social control, including censorship and state influence over personal lives. Singapore's strong governance sometimes raises concerns about freedom. Media restrictions, strict laws, and heavy state intervention mirror Plato's belief that the ideal state prioritizes collective harmony over individual desires. So does Singapore meet Plato's vision of a utopia? It certainly reflects many of his ideals: meritocracy, order, and pragmatic governance. But unlike Plato's rigid class system, Singapore allows social mobility and individual success. Yet the reliance on foreign workers introduces a complexity Plato never addressed. Is it possible to have a utopia where some are more equal than others? Or is Singapore simply a highly efficient, well-managed society? Utopian for some, but not for all? What do you think? Does Singapore match Plato's vision, or is utopia always just an idea? Let us know in the comments.